my name is Linda Broadfoot, and I'm the director of Indy Parks. I'm also a proud Butler graduate from 1998, where I had a marketing and French double major and a sociology minor. But more importantly, I always called myself an activities major. I was very involved in a lot of student organizations and did a lot of service work over my course over the years at Butler. As we are in this sort of crazy time, we're stating the obvious. I think what I would impart to Butler students right now is to remember, now more than ever, the importance of service, the importance of sort of breaking out of the Butler bubble, right? And getting to know the community around you and making sure you're exposing yourself to all the great things that Indianapolis has to offer. This course, I think, is really cool. And we're going to spend a few minutes with several different members of my team at the Parks Department talking about the impact of COVID-19 on parks. So, we've seen over the last 6 months now, increased use, just crazy crowds showing up to use our spaces, which, as you might imagine, is good and bad. And you'll hear from folks who have really stepped up their game and really served the community at a time when it was needed most, while also, dealing with their own fears of being out in public and interacting and putting themselves at risk. So I'm really, really proud of the Indy Parks team, and I'm excited you're going to hear from quite a few of them. They're far more important than I am, frankly, in this moment, and so I'm excited that you'll get to hear directly from the people who do the real work in our community.
So the first staff that we're going to talk to from the Awesome Parks team are some folks that really stepped up. I mentioned that our folks are really, coming out and serving community in the midst of this, right, in the midst of the pandemic. So we have Tequila and Sean here who are going to talk a little bit about what they've done to serve community during COVID-19 and everything else. So, I think you both have an operation that, at the risk of overusing the word pivot, that you had to pivot essentially over the course of a weekend, really,
yes.
In how we, once the city sort of went under our quarantine, you guys had to change how you do business. So Tequila, what was that like to make that move, and what do you think the impact of that has been?
I think for me, definitely, it was, I was on vacation on that Friday. And so getting all these calls on Friday about, hey, we have to do something different on Monday. You have all this food and no schools. And so my first thought was, I have over 1,200 meals that I got to figure out where they're going to go come Monday morning. And so got back here on Monday, and we started full throttle trying to see with the DOE, who's open, what are we allowed to do, how can we still meet the need of the community. We were able to get a waiver to open up some of our family centers, our parks early. All of our parks and family centers was like, okay, whatever it is that we need to do, which meant most of them coming in early, working longer hours, making that adjustment. Got a hold of our vendor. They were like, whatever it is that we need to do. We got in with our staff, and we started serving meals. We went from family centers to some of our IHAs in the community, some of our parks in the community, and we started serving families, the children. And then within a week, I believe, we were able to switch from just focusing on our children, who we service every day, all year round, to being able to support our families with the help of Gleaners partnerships and Second Helpings partnerships. Then we had a partnership with Arts for Learning, and they provided activities for the children to be able to do while they were out of school. Of course, during this pandemic, it was new to everybody. So we really didn't know what all we could do and how we could affect the family, but we were willing to do whatever we could. Up to now, we've been able to do 1,300 food boxes. We partnered with Second Helpings with sandwiches and family-focused meals, and we've been able to serve over 57,000 of those servings, in addition to expanding our summer service, which we do every summer. We're up to almost 46,000 meals from March 16th up until now. So it's just been definitely a partnership, how we've been able to be successful with this, the team and everybody coming on board.
Sean, when we think of community-centered community centers, if you will, Windsor Village is it. How have you guys heeded the call for the community?
During the COVID-19 pandemic, we actually had a chance to create a drive-through pantry, and it was such a great success. a lot of our seniors who did not have access, a lot of our regular pantry participants that didn't have access. And it put us out there in the community so that people could see that there was actually something going on. And then it kind of piqued the interest of everybody. And then through picking the interest, you find out that there is a great need. So creating our drive-through pantry, it helped us to meet the need of the community in that way. And you could come from everywhere, it doesn't matter. So again, ditto what Tequila said with the partnerships from Gleaners, with the partnerships, we had IMPD on board. Of course, all of our Indy Park staff and team and our councilmen and everybody who had any hand in parks was on board to help. So I'm proud to say that with that, in that 2-month period that we did accomplish a lot, we served nearly 5,000 people. It was such a pleasure to hear from the community, thank you. We don't know what we would do without you. This is going to help me feed my family. I had no clue. You know, they would say things like, God bless you guys for coming out here and doing this for us. And I would say, no, thank you. They say, no, thank you. You know, so that was such a great feeling. And then to also know that we're also helping our people here in the Indianapolis community.
We are now here overlooking the beautiful Eagle Creek Reservoir to talk to Brittany and Kim, who are regional managers over a ton of park acreage for Indy Parks and have seen a lot of interesting things, to say the least, the last few months in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Brittany, out here at Eagle Creek, I know in particular you've seen a lot of new visitors, right? So talk about what it's been like out here at Eagle Creek the last few months.
Yeah, we're seeing a newfound appreciation for nature, for open spaces, for green space, fresh air. We have plenty of acreage here to provide for social distancing. It's been nice to see new visitors. Visitation has been up. We've had record-breaking attendance about every single weekend. Lots of people just really happy to have this escape, and we're glad to provide that.
Yeah. Kim, you manage a lot of parks on the east side. You've got a lot of acreage under you as well. What are you guys seeing on the east side?
Yeah, so we've seen increased park usage as well across the east side of the city. We're also seeing that folks are spending more time in the park, meaning they're visiting more often, but they're staying longer when they're there. So that's been kind of the plus side. We've seen increased traffic in parks that don't normally see as much foot traffic, and a lot of family activities.
So, you know, the flip side to all this, of course, is we are in the midst of a pandemic and we are trying to avoid crowds. So what are the downsides of, you know, what challenges have you seen with all these presumably new or, you know, just bigger crowds of people coming out?
Well, our top priority is safety of our visitors, our staff, our volunteers. So we have had to take some necessary guidelines to protect everyone. For a while we had to close the park to vehicles because we were experiencing overcrowding. People were parked illegally all on the grass through the whole park. The trash cans were overflowing. It was just, you know, just really sad to see that happen to a park that we love so much. So we did have to take that action, and it worked out great for the park. It was nice to have a little bit of peace and quiet and let the park, you know, bounce back from that. But
yeah, so social distancing in the park space has definitely been a challenge, especially early on. I think when the schools initially shut down, a lot of the athletic teams shifted to our parks for practices and, you know, group runs and things like that. And so just trying to keep everyone safely observing, you know, those habits was a little bit of a challenge. The increased usage, of course, brought parking challenges to some of our parks. And I think the other thing that we've noticed is the struggle to keep folks off of amenities that maybe didn't open right away. Things like playgrounds that have remained closed due to CDC guidelines. You know, you get so far into a quarantine or a shutdown, and it's harder to keep families and kids off of those things, especially as they're utilizing the park space more.
Talk about programming, because we haven't stopped, right? You know, we've maybe, you know, we're not inviting people in to sweat next to each other, you know, every day, but what are we doing programming-wise? How are we sort of meeting the moment and what people need?
So I think our park our park staff got really creative during the circumstances. We saw a lot of programs that I don't think we thought initially could go virtual. We saw park managers shift those things and find a way to offer programming and stay engaged using social media and other outlets during this time.
You all have been doing a lot of virtual programming as well.
We have. We've been trying to bring the park to the visitors virtually by doing virtual hikes featuring different trails throughout the park, virtual bird hikes, virtual story time. Our naturalists have really stepped it up. It's been really great to watch all the videos on Facebook and to follow what other parks are doing. And we've been sharing each other's material and trying to cross-promote parks. So yeah, they're being creative. They're doing a great job. Our park naturalists, didn't take any days off during all of this and just kept challenging themselves to create new and innovative programs that people would be interested in.
So there's no question it's been a very different year to work for the Parks Department. It's been a challenging year, to say the least. What do you hope comes out of this time?
As a park planner, I would hope that the discussion would be for more funding for parks and to increase our park space. There's definitely a need. If you look backwards, you can see what the need is to look forward. So when there were previous pandemics, the need for green space became evident because there was none at those times. Mm-hmm. So the great parks that we see today and the great park systems actually came about because of past pandemics. During this time, the places that most people went during this time of our COVID pandemic were in our parks, even though some of the playgrounds were closed. We had to take goals down to keep people from congregating on basketball courts. You saw an increased use on trails and any park related connectivity. And so that shows you there is definitely a need for park space, and going in the future there would be more needed.
Yeah. Agreed with Andre as well. I heard from a lot of my friends and colleagues too that it was great to have the parks open in a time where it's, we're all self-isolating at home, and having a green space to go into really helps with mental health issues as well. So I think showing that how important our park spaces are and our green spaces are, as well as finding ways to innovate and still connect to our audiences. We had to reinvent and try to find a way to bring the arts to people in their homes as well, to kind of help take away the sort of anxiety of this pandemic that we're living in.
What's the future hold for us, and how can we make sure we're serving the community more equitably?
There are locations that don't have a neighborhood park, even in townships and areas that you would think are okay because they have probably the largest park in our system, Eagle Creek Park. If you look at it and scale back, Pike Township actually only has 3 or 4 parks. And so Eagle Creek being 5,000 acres, but if everyone tries to go to Eagle Creek, they could have an opportunity to go to a neighborhood park that's closer to them. And so when you scale that to our whole system, there are pockets, there are areas sadly where there are issues of crime, poverty, homelessness that need those open spaces, and we just don't have them right now.
And I think the spaces that we do have, opening our doors to our communities, providing a safe space for people to have these conversations about social and racial injustice. We talk a lot about how the arts can play a role in giving voice to BIPOC artists around our community as well, and having these discussions that are very important to make change in our community, and how parks can play a role in that as well.
So you've heard from some awesome Parks and Rec professionals over the course of this quick video. I hope what you're able to take away from this is, the role that parks can play in particular in communities and in times of crisis for our cities. And, the importance of sort of community work in helping cities meet the needs of their residents. So my hopes for the future are that folks will see the value even more so now for parks and public spaces. As we've said, people have been flocking to our parks, so people obviously at least subconsciously get the value that parks bring to them. So I'm hopeful that folks will advocate more strongly for parks in their neighborhoods. And I want to make sure that parks are at the table as we talk as a community about equity, opportunity, and inclusion as well. We feel very strongly that parks are open to everyone and everyone should feel welcome in a park, but I have no doubt we've got some work to do as an organization to make sure people understand that and feel that way as well. So I look forward to Indy Parks continuing to evolve and work with community and to be even more of service in the future.